In a world where every day feels like a race against time, we often find ourselves overwhelmed, distracted, and missing the deeper meaning behind our actions. Have you ever stopped to wonder if there's more to life than just checking off your to-do list or rushing through another busy day? What if the true secret to a peaceful, fulfilling life isn't in doing more, but in learning to prioritize the things that truly matter? Today we dive into a powerful truth. Life's most meaningful moments aren't in the busyness, they're in the stillness and in the choices we make. Let me ask you this: have you ever found yourself stuck in the middle of a storm, trying to fight your way through challenges that just seem to keep coming? What if those very obstacles, the setbacks that frustrate you, are actually divine protection in disguise? Just like Balaam's encounter with the angel of the Lord, sometimes roadblocks are the very things that keep us safe and on the right path. Life throws many challenges at us, but it's in how we respond that defines our journey. Now think about the whispers in the chaos, the moments when you feel God's gentle nudging. Are you listening? Elijah was surrounded by dramatic forces, the wind, the earthquake, the fire, but it wasn't in these loud moments that he encountered God. It was in the still small whisper. The same applies to us. In the midst of our chaotic lives, we often miss the quiet guidance from God because we're too focused on the noise. We also need to ask ourselves, are we truly prioritizing what matters? Jesus, in his wisdom, didn't rush through life ticking off boxes. He stopped, he listened, and he cared. He prioritized relationships, healing, and showing love over rushing from task to task. Are we living like Jesus, prioritizing the truly important aspects of our lives? Or are we too caught up in the busyness? If these questions have sparked something within you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Share your thoughts in the comments below. I want to hear how you're prioritizing what matters and how you're learning to trust God's guidance in the chaos. By subscribing, you'll stay updated on more life-changing insights that will help you live a more purposeful and fulfilling life. In the overwhelming hustle of daily life, where everything demands our attention, we often forget one of the most profound truths. God speaks in the silence. We are surrounded by noise, endless notifications, news, conversations, and the pressure to keep moving, to keep achieving. But amidst all of this, God's voice is not found in the loudest, most dramatic events. It's not in the fire, the earthquake, or the storm. It is found in the stillness, in the whisper, just like it was for Elijah on Mount Horeb. Think about Elijah's experience. There he was, running for his life, feeling utterly alone and desperate, searching for answers. He climbed the mountain, hoping to find God's direction. And yet God did not appear in the thunderous storm or the raging wind. No, God came to Elijah in the quiet whisper, 1 Kings 19:11-13. It was a moment of peace amidst the chaos, an invitation to listen. For many of us, this is a lesson we need to hear. We're so used to noise, so accustomed to constant stimulation, that we fail to notice the quiet voice that is calling us. We search for grand signs, for clear and dramatic revelations, when all along the answer we're seeking might be found in a still moment of reflection, a quiet thought that gently nudges us in the right direction. It's easy to make the mistake of thinking that we need to shout louder, push harder, or constantly be on the go to find clarity. But the truth is that clarity often comes when we stop forcing it, when we pause, and when we make space for God to speak. This is where many of us falter. We allow the noise around us to drown out God's voice, and in doing so, we miss his subtle guidance. Have you ever had that fleeting moment of peace during a busy day? Or that quiet thought that seemed to come from nowhere but felt like it had a deeper meaning? That's God speaking to you, guiding you toward the next step, showing you the right path. But we often disregard it, thinking it's just a passing feeling or a random thought. We're too distracted by the chaos of our lives to recognize it. Here's the mistake we make. We chase after the loud, the urgent, the immediate, and in doing so, we miss the divine whispers that are meant to lead us. We chase after clarity in all the wrong places. The mistake is in believing that we must have all the answers right now, that life must be lived in the fast lane with no pauses. But what if the answer you need isn't found in a noisy, frantic race for success? What if it's found in taking a step back, slowing down, and creating a space where God can speak directly to you? What if the real clarity is waiting for you in the quiet, the stillness, the moments of peace that you have been too busy to notice? To avoid this mistake, it's crucial to make time each day to pause and quiet your thoughts. This doesn't mean a long retreat or a grand gesture, but a simple practice of stillness, even for just a few minutes. Begin your day with a moment of peace before the world demands your attention. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and set aside the noise of the world. Ask God to speak to you, to guide you through the chaos, and be open to the subtle ways He might be reaching out to you. It could be a simple thought, a quiet conviction, or even a sense of peace in the middle of uncertainty. You might be surprised by the clarity you find when you give God the space to speak. Imagine this: you wake up early before the world is fully awake, and you sit in stillness. You turn off your phone, ignore the emails, and set aside your to-do list. You open your heart and your mind to God. You let go of the noise, the pressure, and the stress, and in that sacred space of quiet, God speaks, not with a thunderous voice, but with a gentle nudge, a whisper of guidance that directs your day, your actions, your heart. That clarity, that peace, that feeling of alignment, it can change everything. It's not in the rush, not in the chaos, but in the quiet moments, when we pause long enough to listen. We often think that we need to have everything figured out right now. But what if the most important thing we need to do is stop and listen? What if the key to clarity, to peace, and to spiritual guidance is to pause, to step away from the noise, and to create space for God to speak? When we learn to listen to the whisper in the chaos, we find that God's direction for our lives is often simpler and clearer than we ever imagined. So take a moment, slow down, quiet your mind, and listen for the still, small voice that might just change everything. Life is filled with roadblocks, obstacles that feel like interruptions or setbacks. When they appear, our first instinct is often frustration or anger. We view these moments as misfortunes, as signs that things are going wrong. But what if these roadblocks are not signs of failure, but of divine protection? What if, instead of seeing them as barriers, we begin to see them as redirections towards something better? Take, for example, the story of Balaam and his donkey in Numbers 22, 21, 33. Balaam was a man on a mission, eager to go wherever his desires led him. But as he journeyed, a seemingly simple roadblock arose. His donkey refused to move forward. Balaam, blinded by his own desires, could not understand why his donkey would not obey. He struck the animal, frustrated by the delay, but then something extraordinary happened. His donkey saw an angel of the Lord standing in the road, a divine barrier that Balaam could not see. In a shocking turn of events, the donkey spoke, and the Lord revealed the danger ahead. Balaam's plans were interrupted, not because of a random misfortune, but because God was protecting him from harm. This story, though strange and surprising, is a powerful reminder that roadblocks in our lives might not be the curses we think they are. In fact, they may be God's way of saving us from something worse. How many times have we faced setbacks, a job loss, a failed relationship, or an opportunity slipping through our fingers only to feel the world is crumbling around us? We ask, why me? Why is this happening? Yet how often do we pause and consider that these moments of frustration or loss might be God's way of redirecting us towards something better? How often do we miss the blessing because we're so focused on the disappointment? The truth is, we are often blind to the larger picture. We see our lives through the narrow lens of immediate desire, focusing on what we think we want in the moment. But God, in his infinite wisdom, sees the path ahead and knows what we truly need. Just as Balaam's donkey could see the angel blocking the path, God sees what we cannot. Sometimes a roadblock isn't a sign of failure, but of protection. It's God's way of saying, not yet, or this is not the path I have for you. When we resist these roadblocks, we may be resisting God's guidance. But when we surrender to his plan, trusting that he knows best, we open ourselves to the possibility of greater blessings. Instead of asking, why is this happening to me, we should ask, what is God trying to protect me from? When we shift our perspective from frustration to trust, we can begin to see these roadblocks in a new light. Each setback, each obstacle, could be a form of divine intervention, a moment where God is redirecting us toward his perfect plan. And just like Balaam, when we stop resisting and begin to listen, we open ourselves to understanding and acceptance of God's greater purposes for our lives. This doesn't mean that setbacks won't be painful or confusing. Life's challenges can feel overwhelming, and it's natural to experience doubt and frustration. But it's in those moments that we must pause, breathe, and trust that God is with us. He knows the dangers ahead, and he is using these roadblocks to protect us from them. By surrendering to God's timing and his protection, we are freed from the burden of trying to control every aspect of our lives. We can rest knowing that God's plan is always better than our own. In the face of setbacks, remember that God's protection often comes in unexpected forms. Roadblocks may appear in your life in the form of a delay, a loss, or a disappointment. But don't be quick to dismiss them. Instead, pause, reflect, and trust that God is guiding you. Surrender your frustration and your need for control, and let God show you the blessings that await when you follow his lead. Just as Balaam eventually saw the angel, you too may come to realize that the roadblock you've been fighting is actually the protection you needed all along. In the whirlwind of life, it's easy to fall into the trap of busyness, convinced that the more we do, the more successful or fulfilled we'll feel. But as we rush through our days, ticking off tasks and meeting deadlines, we often overlook the most important things, the moments that truly matter. Jesus, in his time on earth, set an extraordinary example for us when it comes to prioritizing what truly matters. In the story of Jairus and the woman with the bleeding condition, Mark 5:21-43, Jesus shows us that, despite the urgent nature of his mission, he took the time to pause and care for someone in need. Jesus was on his way to heal Jairus' daughter, a task that seemed urgent and life or death. Yet, as he was traveling, he stopped to heal a woman who had been suffering for years. The crowd was pressing in on him, the situation was dire, and time was precious. Yet Jesus didn't rush by. He saw the woman, acknowledged her, and healed her, even though he knew the precious time he spent on her meant a delay in reaching Jairus' daughter. In today's fast-paced world, we're often in a similar situation, juggling priorities and trying to meet everyone's demands. We have deadlines to meet, relationships to nurture, and personal goals to achieve. And in the midst of all this, it can feel like there's no room to slow down, to take a breath or pause. But just like Jesus, we need to learn that not all tasks are created equal. The mistake we make is thinking that doing more means being more productive. We confuse busyness with purpose. Jesus didn't equate the urgency of the task with its importance. He prioritized what truly mattered in that moment, a woman in need of healing. His decision to stop and tend to her demonstrated a radical shift in how we view time and priorities. He showed us that what truly matters isn't always what's most urgent, it's what's most important. In our daily lives, we often focus on the wrong things. We spend hours chasing after goals that may seem significant in the moment but don't bring lasting fulfillment. We let external pressures, deadlines, societal expectations, and other people's demands dictate how we spend our time. But like Jesus, we must learn to slow down and focus on the people and moments that align with God's priorities for our lives. Whether it's showing kindness to someone in need, prioritizing our relationship with God, or taking time for self-care, we must stop equating busyness with value. The key to this shift lies in slowing down. It's about being intentional with our time and choosing to focus on what matters most. It requires us to let go of the idea that our worth is tied to how much we accomplish in a day. Instead, we must focus on the quality of our actions, the relationships we nurture, and the impact we make. When we learn to prioritize what truly matters, we experience peace, clarity, and a sense of fulfillment that cannot be found in the frenetic pace of modern life. By following Jesus' example, we can begin to live more intentionally, focusing on the things that truly bring purpose and peace. It's time to stop rushing through life and start paying attention to the moments that matter most. When we align our priorities with God's will, we discover a deeper sense of peace that surpasses the chaos around us. If this message has resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay connected with more life-changing insights. Comment below and let us know how you plan to prioritize what truly matters in your life.